Bro, every time she brings anything up, you shut it down. You deaded it, you tool. Bachelor in Paradise has officially taken a turn from a love game to a social game. We've got so much to talk about, so welcome to your Bachelor in Paradise breakdown. Now, of course, the juicy moment this episode was when Jesse showed up and turned the game into an actual game. It's literally a new twist that has been implemented that we're going to talk about very soon. But before we do that, a couple updates and a usual weekly vent about Dale, because my God, that man does my head in. Captain Kim got to talking with a couple of ladies, deepening his connection with them. He was talking to Faith, and he was also talking to Nancy a little bit. The conversation with Nancy was very tender. It was about how both of them had lost their spouses in the past. They had passed away, and both of them had obviously had to deal with being widows, and they both got very emotional and vulnerable during that conversation. It was very tender to see, and it was I just wanted to bring them both together and say hug each other, kiss each other, make each other happy. And Kim obviously was conflicted. He didn't really know if he wanted to choose between Faith, Nancy, or Leslie for that matter. He's a player. Captain Kim's an old-time player. I don't know if any older ladies are watching right now. What do we all think of Captain Kim? Are you all taken by him as well? But yes, Captain Kim definitely in a conflict there. Going into the rose ceremony, Faith, Leslie or Nancy, he wasn't sure who he was going to pick. We got a segment of Kat and Dale before the rose ceremony where Kat was looking for reassurance, but she didn't outwardly say she was looking for reassurance. She was just stating to Dale, it's so funny, I've only ever kissed you here, and I've only ever given you a rose, and all that kind of stuff. And she was 100% fishing for Dale to say something similar back. But then douchey Dale does what he usually does and turns around and goes, I think you're holding back things that could be detrimental to the development of our relationship. Bro, every time she brings anything up, you shut it down. You deaded it, you tool. He's like, there's nothing you could say in this world that would make me judge you. Bullshit. It was time for the rose ceremony now, and this time it was for the gents to pick one of the ladies. This carried over from last week and everything that built up to the end of last week's episode. And first up was Brian. He, of course, picked, even though he had a man tantrum last week, even when she asked what his favourite colour was, he picked Parisa. So Parisa, of course, having to endure some more time with Brian there. Congratulations, Parisa. Nobody wants that. And then next up, we had Andrew. And Andrew picked, of course, Alex. He attempted his French while he was trying to give her the rose, but it sounded basically like he said, would you fondle my rose? Charming. Jeremy, of course, picked Bailey, even though he was only one phone call away from calling Susie again. Spencer picked, in a shocking turn of events, Jess. Dale ended up picking Kat. Commiserations, Kat. Sean picked Alicia. Jonathan picked Leah. And then it came down to the Goldens. Keith ended up picking Kathy. Captain Kim picked Faith. And then it all came down to Gary. He had to pick one lady and he chose Leslie. Meaning we had to say goodbye to Natasha, Nancy and April. All three very entertaining ladies. Natasha and Nancy seem like lovely human beings. And not to say that April doesn't, but April I'm putting in a different category because she was a firecracker. And while she didn't find love in there, she definitely gave us entertainment for the Goldens over the last few weeks. And I will sorely miss all three of them. At the end of the rose ceremony, our wonderful host Jesse showed up and delivered a brand new twist to the game. Not only a brand new twist, but it literally turned the game on its head. What has been couples mingling for 5 weeks and essentially a glorified version of Love Island has now actually been turned into a Big Brother Survivor-esque kind of game where couples are going to have to literally compete to stay in the game. So I'm going to talk about this twist right now. From now on, there will be no new arrivals in Paradise. These couples that have been set in stone right now at this last rose ceremony will compete going forwards. Not to say that they can change, they won't change up, but as of right now, those relationships are going to be put to the test in a number of experiments testing the loyalty and strength of each couple. Some will win roses to hand out and some won't. If you land in the bottom 3 of any challenge that happens, that means you are at risk. And the couple who wins the challenge, they are, depending on which week it is, if it's the male elimination or the female elimination, one of the people in that couple will pick roses to give to two people in the bottom 3, meaning that one person in the bottom 3 will not have a rose to hand out, meaning that that couple goes home. Oh, and also, did I mention that there's a chance to leave paradise with $500,000? Upon realizing this, the couples went to work and they were asking so many questions to each other. What's your favourite colour? Don't ask Brian that, he might fly off the handle. What's your favourite colour? What was your childhood pet's name? Where do you live? What's your body count? All of these different kind of things, because people realise that there's money on the line now, and if they were going to be quizzed and tested, then they need to know everything about each other. And Alex had such a funny segment. She didn't seem to have a lot of interest, unfortunately, in asking Andrew the questions, but she said, if it helps me win the money, then I'm going to ask as many questions as I need to. But it literally felt like a boot camp as everybody was asking each other the questions to try and get to know one another as much as possible so they could benefit themselves in the games. Unfortunately for Parisa, she felt like absolute dog crap. Don't want to get demonetized, folks. She felt like dog crap, realizing that she was stuck with the man who would throw a man tantrum when asked what his favorite color was. What a great partner, everyone. Ahead of the challenge, the couples were given poker chips, and then they approached Jesse in the jungle, and he was sat at a poker table, and he says, welcome to high, low, what do you know? The couples would take turns by going up to the poker table, and one of the people in the couples would step forward. They would then be asked a question about the other person in the couple, and they would basically have to put as many chips as they wanted to. They would bet with confidence if they believed that the answer was higher or lower. So you could put 3 chips on, you could put 6 chips on, you could put 1 chip on, you could put 9 chips on. Should you? I don't know. But the couple who landed in the bottom 3 would be at risk of not having a rose to give out. And the couple who won would decide 2 of those people who got roses, leaving the other one out and leaving paradise. So they will be asked all sorts of questions like, how much does this person spend? Does this person spend more than $20 on beauty care every single month, higher or lower? What's this person's body count, higher or lower than 10? How many times has this person had sex in a day, at most, higher or lower than 5? Or, questions like that. But there was 2 rounds that specifically stood out. Jeremy made a huge gamble when he put basically all of his chips. He put 18 chips on the table. He went all in on one question, and he got it right, boosting he and Bailey all the way to the top with 36 chips. Nobody could even come close. And then one disastrous decision was Gary. He decided to put 9 chips down on the table when he only needed to do 1. He couldn't have won at this point, but also if he had just put 1 chip down, he would have landed himself not in the bottom 3, meaning that Leslie would have had a rose to give to him. But he decided for some weird reason to put 9 chips down, and he was wrong, and then he and Leslie in the bottom 3. It was just, oh my word. It was a shake your head moment, and then Gary had his come to God moment afterwards and turned around and went, I should have bet 1. No, you should have bet 1, Gary. But yes, with that huge gamble, Jeremy and Bailey did win the first ever Bachelor in Paradise challenge, so a massive congratulations to them. And with the ladies ending up giving out roses this week, it was up to Bailey to decide who of the bottom 3 she would give roses to. And the bottom 3 was Faith, Parisa, and Leslie. Welcome to a brand new segment called Jeremy is a Sleazeball. They went on their first ever date after winning the challenge, and he was flirting with Bailey. He was loving the power of the fact that he had the chance to give out these roses, and he was flirting away with Bailey about an engagement ring. And I know fully well that this scumbag, this man, literally weeks ago called Susie to want to bring her back to the island, regretting giving his rose to Bailey. He is not very, very nice at all. He seems like a very self-centered man who is full of himself and just kind of strings people along to suit him. I don't like him. I don't think he seems like a very nice person. He's a sleazeball in my eyes, and that's all he came across like during this date as well. And then he took time to even, he was talking crap about the Goldens. He was saying that he effing hates them. He effing hates the Goldens because they keep going on monologues. Nah, it's just because they've got more interesting things to say than this man, who only really cares about himself. I don't like him. I don't like him through and through. He doesn't seem pleasant at all. And of course he's hating on people who are more comfortable in themselves and raw and natural when they're talking to people, because they've actually got a personality rather than being that of a used car salesman. From one sleazeball to another, Brian and Parisa had a moment where Parisa kind of pulled Brian aside, and then Brian kind of let out what he'd been feeling over these past few weeks. And I'm going to read this quote out because he said, "I have had partners in the past who've needed way too much reassurance to the point where it's driven me away." Shouldn't he take hint at the fact that this is a common thing in his relationships? If a lot of his partners need a lot of reassurance, it's probably because he's not giving it to them. This man, again, similar to Jeremy and Dale, only cares about, I'm going to say, himself. He is so full of himself. He wants adoration, he wants attention, he wants love, but then the second that it feels like he's actually having to put some effort into a relationship, he jumps ship. He moves on to the next lady because the other one feels like he's smothering. It's so funny because it happened with Zoe, and then he jumped onto Parisa, and then all of a sudden Parisa's getting this treatment now, and it's not going to last. It's really not going to last because, and I don't think there's many relationships that would last with Brian until he goes to therapy, because the thing with him is that he is so up his own ass and thinks he can do no wrong that it's always the other person's fault. People like that are very difficult. It's hard to navigate people like that. And very similar to Jeremy, there is only enough room for... I wouldn't say Brian's worse than Jeremy, in my opinion. Way worse, but I do not like Jeremy. But there's only room enough for his feelings. And then him saying stuff like, I need way too much reassurance. Stop with the compliments. It's smothering to me. It's the second it tries to get serious or, anything on a romantic level, he backs off. Because I think all he wants is something on a sexual level. And I think what he's got to realise is you can't just keep using people like that, because otherwise they're going to get sick of it and they're going to get annoyed at you. And of course Parisa wants to give you compliments because she's actually trying to build something here, unlike you, Brian. Captain Kim and Faith were making out at the bar like they were in their 20s. Good for them. They went for it, and then they went for a gallop up the beach, and Captain Kim made a reference to Monty Python and the Holy Grail when they were galloping on the sand together. Just as a British person, I love any reference to Monty Python. That was great. And Gary also took Leslie up the sand. That sounded weird. Gary took Leslie up the sand and was drawn. He was drawing things in the sand for her, little love hearts and everything. It was very sweet. I don't see Jeremy doing that for Bailey, but yeah, he effing hates the Goldens. It's because they've got more charm in their pinky finger than he's got in his entire body. But yeah, it was very heartbreaking actually seeing the focus on these couples who actually really like each other that could face elimination. It was very different to the previous weeks. 100% a vibe switch up, if you will, because recently, or the first 5 weeks at least, all we've seen is, the folks who haven't really been successful in finding love didn't get a rose and off they pop. Whereas now the game shifted to the people who are really strong and really in love or really developing something that's really sweet could literally just be gone like that. So definitely a vibe switch up from the previous weeks. More Brian and Parisa news now, and this was when Parisa again pulled Brian aside and said, "You're acting different to me tonight. I feel a little bit ignored." And then it cuts to Brian in confessional saying Parisa tends to overanalyze things. Okay, let's put this to the test. Let's see if she is overanalyzing things. Brian then goes to the bar and basically walks away from Parisa and kind of acts like she doesn't even exist. But no, that's not ignoring her, is it? No, Parisa's overanalyzing things. He then spends the majority of his time talking to Kat and hanging with the boys. And then Parisa just walks away from the bar and Brian doesn't even realise. So, let me just put that back into context. Parisa says that Brian's ignoring her, and Brian says that Parisa tends to overanalyze things. Sure thing, dickhead. Also on the rocks is Jonathan and Leia. Jonathan told Kat that he is not interested in Leia romantically. Leah finally got wind that Jonathan only is really interested in being friends, and then she was not happy about that. She went to vent to some of the girls, and then Jess vented out and said, I'm so sick of this with Jonathan, you know, I feel like he keeps, you know, sabotaging each thing he's in, and what he doesn't do is he kind of avoids the conflict of telling his partner so that he can remain as Mr. Nice Guy, and that's what Jess kind of said about him. Leah then did approach Jonathan about it, and he kind of did. I see Jonathan's grown on me over these past few weeks, so I can't help but have a soft spot for him, but I understand what people are saying when he continues to sabotage each thing, because in the conversation with Leah, he still kind of tried to avoid saying that he wanted to friend zone her. He was, because Leah was saying, do you see anything with us? And he was like, yeah, backtrack, but you know, it's just hard seeing you as more than a friend right now. And it was just, he was trying to save face by avoiding conflict, and Leah did not like that at all. It was very, very tense between those two. So we should talk about this Jonathan situation for a second, because it does seem like he's sabotaging every single relationship he gets into. You know, we've seen it happen multiple times, you know, with Alex, and then with Jill, and now with Leah, and it seems like he's maybe trying to avoid the conflict just so he can still be given a rose at the ceremony and make it to the next week. I've seen people theorizing that he wants to be the next Bachelor on the next season of The Bachelor, and maybe by sabotaging every single one of these relationships and still making it deep into a Bachelor in Paradise season, he can be popular enough that they would choose him to do that. I don't know about that, but definitely some theories going around online that Jonathan is really playing the game to his own self-interests. With Bailey holding the power, Jeremy, of course, stuck his hand in the ring. He actually said on camera that he is enjoying the power. That sickened me to my core, because it's not like Survivor or Big Brother where you have to cut the throats to get the money. This is actual love and feelings that are on the line, and Jeremy was actually saying he's enjoying having the power of basically being able to end someone's story here. He is not a very nice person as far as I'm concerned. I get so many bad vibes from him. Like somebody who's actually saying that he's a villain, he's a reality TV villain for sure, but also like that line can cross into a not a very pleasant person sometimes. But he's enjoying the power, and besides, it was Bailey's decision, but Jeremy kind of took it upon himself to insert himself into all the negotiations. So the Goldens actually approached Bailey because everybody was trying to schmooze her before the ceremony, because they wanted to make sure that they would get a rose from her. And of course, Parisa, Leslie and Faith are on the line right now. So the Goldens, we've got Kim and Faith, and Gary and Leslie pulled Jeremy and Bailey aside, and they go sit elsewhere, and they go sit in front of they've got these benches, and they're all facing each other, almost like a little mafia meeting, and they're talking about their relationships and what this has brought to them, and how much it would mean for them to continue going on. Brian and Parisa at this point are probably the least compatible couple in the house. They are having crisis on crisis on crisis and basically going in different directions. There's no love there, and it's toxicity completely. So then the Goldens bear their heart and soul, because Gary and Leslie getting along incredibly well, and Faith and Kim getting along incredibly well. It doesn't make sense to get rid of either of them. So they give their story, they talk their feelings through, and Jeremy and Bailey take it all in before they have to make their final decision. It's time for the rose ceremony, and we start out with Bailey. Bailey gave her rose, of course, to Jeremy. Alex was next up, and she attempted her French and gave the rose to Andrew. Kathy was next up, and she, of course, picked Keith. Alicia was next up, and she picked Sean. It was then Kat's turn, and giving herself a death sentence, she picked Dale. In a shocking moment of the season, Jess was next to pick, and she decided to pick Spencer. She picked Spencer, folks. Leah was then next up, and of course, with the friend zone situation on the horizon, she, of course, didn't have a lot of choice when she decided to give her rose to Jonathan. He kind of giggled and laughed, and it was really icky, and it wasn't nice, and it made Leah look really small, and he giggled. He was literally giggling on his way down to get the rose, and you could see how upset that made Leah. He was giggling, and other people were laughing as well. It was kind of like watching bullying. It wasn't very, very nice at all. But then Leah had the one-liner of the night when she turned around, handed Jonathan the rose, and said, "You're welcome." With all this tensity in the air, it was all coming down to who Bailey would give the roses to. She decided to give her first rose to Faith. Faith then gave the rose to Captain Kim, meaning that they are safe for at least another week. So then it came down to Parisa and Leslie. Either Parisa and Brian or Gary and Leslie would leave Paradise tonight. And then Bailey brings forward Leslie. She says to Leslie, "You mean so much to me, and this Paradise journey has been incredible, and I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I can't give you a rose tonight," meaning that she had to give a rose to Parisa, who then chose Brian, meaning that Parisa and Brian are safe for another week, which is crazy, and Gary and Leslie were sent out of Paradise. Bailey justified it with Brian and Parisa still need to get to know each other, but I don't think that's going to happen if she can't even ask him what his favourite colour is. What a perfect time to wrap things up, folks. Next week we have been teased already that if couples want a chance to mingle with somebody else, they can finally do that. Those experiments is what it's being called. They have the chance to experiment with somebody else. So we'll put a pin in that one, see what happens next week. And also in the teaser, Brian might be thinking of actually turning on Jeremy and telling Bailey about the fact that he called Susie. It's all getting more and more intense every single week on The Bachelor in Paradise, and to me that was probably my favourite episode so far because of the game element of it. I've really enjoyed it so far, but a lot of you guys who are watching me know that I'm a big social game fan at heart. Survivor, Big Brother, Traitors, I love all of that. It runs through my veins, and seeing Bachelor in Paradise have a little bit of gameplay injected into it, oh, don't threaten me with a good time. I can't wait for next week, folks. I thoroughly hope you all enjoyed watching. I'm here every single week breaking down The Bachelor in Paradise. I'm also covering the challenge on my channel, and also Big Brother 27 updates come every single day for that. If you'd like to join the postcard wall, that would mean the absolute world to me. I'll put the address on the screen right now so you can send one in. I do have a goal of getting a postcard from every single US state. That would just that would be the coolest thing ever to me, as you can tell just from the license plates up there. I'm a big aficionado on like collecting something from each state. I just think it's the coolest thing ever. So if you are in some of those more obscure states like Hawaii or Alaska, or a little bit further away, maybe in the Midwest, somewhere like that, please, please, please consider sending in a postcard. Say hi. I've had so many lovely notes so far. I've got more on my desk as well. I'm going to do like an unboxing mail day video, which will be really, really special. So I'm very, very excited for that one, folks. And yeah, so if you feel like joining the postcard, well, I'll send one to the address next to me on screen right now. I hope to hear from you soon. But folks, in the meantime, I hope that you're all staying safe, staying positive, and staying healthy out there. And remember to be kind to one another. Don't be like Jeremy, Dale, or Brian. But in the meantime, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that wonderful stuff. But until your next Bachelor in Paradise breakdown, I've been your host, Tom VASEY. Good night.